Good afternoon, everyone. We are the reporters for this afternoon, and our assigned topic is all about Unit 4.1 Motivation. The reporters are the following. For Module 19, Part 1 and 2, the reporters are yours truly, Anshin Salcedo and Miss Renduque Maria Fe. For Module 20, Part 1 and 2, we have Mr. Sanchez Pete and Initan Villain. And for Module 21, the reporter, we have Mr. Patrocinio John. Module 19, Meaning and Types of Motivation. Objectives. Make an outline of this module and give a lecturette on motivation by following on your outline. Distinguish between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, and justify the role of extrinsic motivation in the view of the development of intrinsic motivation. Meaning of motivation. Motivation is an inner drive that causes you to do something and persevere at something. Motivation refers to the initiation, direction, intensity, and perseverance of behavior, and learners' motivation is the primary factor influencing both performance and success in school. So, motivation is a very popular word and we have heard it many times now. The term motivation is derived from the word motive, which refers to our desires, our needs. Giving someone or an individual a reason to do something creates motivation within them. Motivation refers to the reason why students or individuals engage in a specific behavior. When we are motivated, we have the energy to do something. And if we have this enthusiasm, we might be able to accomplish something without being pushed by others or being pushed by the people that surrounds us. As a result, motivation becomes our strength to accomplish anything we set our minds to. Um, and when we are inspired to accomplish something, it is not enough to um, simply start working on it, but we must be drawn to it. We become so immersed in it that we continue to work on it through thick and thin until it is completed. Indicators of high level of motivation. Our level of motivation is reflected in the actions we take, as well as the passion and perseverance with which we put forth effort. As a student, if you are highly motivated, you are excited about learning and accomplishing things. So you take the initiative to complete learning activities, assignments, and projects on your own time rather than being forced by your teachers or by your parents. Dili nakakinahanglan nga sultian to do your responsibility as a student because naa kay motivation para buhaton na nga butang. The second one is a student that has a goal to accomplish and a dream to realize. Of course, if you are a motivated person, you believe that completing the tasks assigned in class will help you achieve your objective and fulfill a lifelong desire. The third one is a student that is willing to give up the satisfaction of immediate goals for the sake of more important remote goals. So a good example for this is if your high school friends or kanang barkada is having a get together or a reunion but you refuse to attend, it's because you have to study for an upcoming major exams. So Matanaw ninyo nga there is a motivation because you have the willingness to give up joining your friends para lang jud maka-prepare ka sa imong exam. And that's a good thing man pod. You sacrifice your temporary happiness para sa imuhang pag-study. The next one is a student that persists and persevere in studies even when things turn out to be difficult. So if you are this kind of student guys who persists and persevere in study despite of having difficulty, then you're having a motivation. Whenever there are challenges that comes in you, you don't give up easily because you are motivated person. You have the reason why you keep pushing and para lang ma-achieve nimo ang imong ganahang i-achieve. And by that, you will be having an excellent performance. In contrary for what I have said earlier, a student who is not motivated to learn does not really enjoy learning and dili mo study unless pushed by their parents or being pushed sa mga tao na nakapalibot niya. And if when that student feels the difficulty of study, giving up is ang iyaha dayon gi solusyon. Naalang gani problema no or malisudan raman gani sa mga projects or mga buluhaton sa school, mo give up na dayon. Ay lisod pud ani gihatag ni ma'am, uy dili man ako ni kaya, uy muundang nako og eskwela kay dili ko kabalo ana or dili ko maka-afford ana. Mga ana bitaw guys, wala na sila mga motivation sa ilahong life. They don't have perseverance para mopadayon miskan sa kalisod. They become more kanang pessimist if they don't have motivation. But if you have motivation, the best characteristic trait you will have is a kanang being a optimistic person, being a positive in life and in studies. Motivation includes many aspects, including emotional and financial. But when in terms of financial, if naglisod ka ni, mangita lang og way para makasurvive. Dili jud mo give up. Instead na mo give up, no, why don't we use the kalisod sa financial as a motivation to go on para ma-achieve nato na makakontinue sa ato ang study. That's all for my part. Miss Renduque, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, this is Rendoque Maria Fe. So, earlier we've tackled about, Mr. Zamora tackled about the meaning of motivation and the intrinsic of higher levels of motivation. So, in this juncture, I am going to tackle about the types of motivation. So, there are types of motivation. So there are two types of motivation, which is the intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation. So what are these two? Okay, to the next slide. First is we will tackle about the intrinsic motivation. So, intrinsic motivation is engaged in a behavior because it is personally rewarding, not for an external reward. So, this means that when the source of motivation is from within the person himself or herself or the activity itself, is to engage in an activity for its own sake, according to Schrank et al. 2008. So meaning, intrinsic motivation is the person's value on how he or she going to motivate herself from the learning that the teacher or a person might given to him or her. The second one is the extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is kind of a behavior that drives by external rewards such as money, fame, grades, and praise. For example, a child will be motivated if naay kapalit ang usa ka goal. Example, a teacher will give an exercise or an activity. If ever one will answer it correctly in extrinsic way or in intrinsic way where there is an exchange of grades. Example, if maka-answer si student number 1, maka-gain siya og points. Example, 1 point or 5 points depende sa teacher, which is makapapukaw pod sa mind sa students nga maghuna-huna siya og ay kailangan nako ning buhaton tomorrow kay manghatag og grade si ma'am. That's the meaning that's is example of the intrinsic motivation. So let's further explanation. So extrinsic motivation is when that which motivates a person is someone or something outside him or her. Motivation to engage in an activity as means to an end. So that's it. That's the two types of motivation. What is it again? Is it intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation? The difference between the intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation. So, further explanation about these types of motivation. So, intrinsic motivation is more beneficial than extrinsic motivation because intrinsic motivations comes from within the person himself or herself without any exchange. Example, willing kang maka-learn, willing kang mo-do sa activities, and willing kang mo-answer every activities nga gihatag sa imong maestra or sa atong maestra. Willing ka. There is no exchange, which means that a child which has an intrinsic motivation, it is possible that that child will gain knowledge and learning confidently and independently, which is who is responsible in terms of learning from the teacher in his own. So furthermore, intrinsic motivation is preferable because of its focus on learning and understanding, which is stated by Brophy 2004. So that's the intrinsic motivation than to extrinsic motivation. So the rule of extrinsic motivation. There are two rules of extrinsic motivation, and the first one is that extrinsic motivation plays an indispensable function when learner is not yet intrinsically motivated to learn. So, it means nga extrinsic motivation is not literally bad for a child. It is kanang pamaagi lamang para mahimo sila through intrinsic motivation learner. So, extrinsic motivation is that mo ni siya silbi guide sa usa ka estudyante para ma-independent learning siya sa iyahang through process or in step-by-step learning. Okay, that's it. So, the first rule of extrinsic motivation is that extrinsic plays an indispensable function when learner is not yet intrinsically motivated to learn. So the second one is as long as the students are hardly motivated external motivation in the form of rewards, incentives, or punishments about students to develop the genuine love for learning and becomes intrinsically motivated in the process. So, if a students are willing to answer are or willing or has a motivation that is willing or that has an exchange of a punishments or rewards, so maningkamot sila para makuha nila ang sakto o makuha nila ang intrinsic motivation, which is para sa ilahang kaugalingon o para maka-learn genuinely with love and in a process.
Okay, let's move on to my report. So I will going to report about attribution theory, self-efficacy theory, and self-determination and self-regulation theory. So let's start with attribution theory. So what is attribution theory? This theory explains that we attribute our success or failure or other events to several factors. For example, G is popular in their barangay because he is multi-talented. So G is multi-talented, that is the attribute of his popularity. Then second is, Jenny did not finish her study due to her family economic status. So the factor that affect the study of Jenny, that he did not finish his schooling, is their economic status. He attribute that to their economic status. Then lastly is the vice of John's father is the cause of their poverty. So the factor that result to poverty is the vices of John's father. So how does attribution affects motivation? So if the learner attributes his success or failure to something within him, and therefore is within his control, or something unstable, and therefore can be changed, he is more likely to be motivated. If, however, the learner traces his success to something outside him, and therefore beyond his control, he is likely to be less motivated. Let's proceed to self-efficacy theory. Self-efficacy theory is the belief that one has the necessary capabilities to perform a task and fulfill roles expectation or to meet a challenging situation successfully. So that is very understandable already. So there are self-efficacy enhancing strategies. So the first is make sure that students master the basic skills so that if they will proceed to the higher level, they already attain knowledge about the previous levels that they can use to the obstacles and challenging tasks of the higher levels. Then help them make noticeable progress on difficult tasks. So if your student or the learners did not notice that he is progressing, then that is the duty of the educator to notice a small progress, and that will motivate the learner's output or achievement. So then communicate confidence in the student's abilities through words and actions. And that is a very important way to motivate a student. So, for example, if the student is doing a task today that is very difficult, and he achieved and he managed to surpass, or he managed to tackle that challenging task well, then if you give another difficult task or another difficult task, so he will think, or he or she will think, that this is more easier than yesterday. So that is one example that your student will be motivated, or the learner will be motivated. Then expose them to a successful peers. So if you will expose the students to the successful peers, they will be influenced by them and will be also be motivated to do their task perfectly. So then there are also other recommendations from the motivations theories. There are also other recommendations from the motivations theories. So let's proceed to self-determination and self-regulation theories. So self-determination is an important concept that refers to each person's ability to make choice and manage their own life. So it allows people to feel that they have control over their choice and lives. So if the learner feels that he has a control over of his life, or he has control of the task that he is doing, then he or she will be more motivated to do that task. So, self-regulation is the ability to monitor and manage your energy state, emotion, thoughts, and behavior in a way that are acceptable and produce positive results such as well-being, loving, relationship, and learning. So, self-determination theory. So, self-determination theory suggests that people are motivated to grow and change by three innate and universal psychological needs. These are an autonomy, competence, connection, or relatedness. So I will give you um, the or shall we say meaning of this. So in the autonomy, people need to feel in control of their own lives. So you have heard, control of their own life, behavior in goals. So this is about the choice. So if the learner has control over choices, then the achievement is higher, has a higher tendency to be or the goals are higher tendency to be achieved. Then second is competence. People needs to gain mastery and control of their own lives and their environment. Then lastly is the connection or relatedness. People need to experience a sense of belonging and connection with other people. So if you feel, or the learners feel that they belong to a certain environment, of course, they will be motivated enough to do or to achieve their goals in their academic performance, and also they will obtain a higher grades because of what they feel, because they will be motivated enough to do their task. Self-regulation theory. Self-regulation theory refers to a person's ability to master himself. So this type of people are the captain of their soul and capable in directing themselves. So process, according to Omrod, process involve self-regulated learning. So self-regulated people has this shall I say, or words. So goal, planning, attention control, application of learning strategies, self-monitoring, and self-evaluation. So they set their goals. Of course, they will have to plan their goals. Then attention control, the attention that they give of what their goal of the goal. Then application of learning strategies, the strategies that they use for their goals. Then self-monitoring, they are monitoring themselves if they are doing well or they need to improve this thing or the other aspects that and the factors that will improve or will be the factor that will decrease the chances of achieving the goal. Then self-evaluation. The self-evaluation if is that if they're doing this thing, they will evaluate if this is I if the learner is doing well or the things that is as an overall they will evaluate in order to achieve success. So I think in addition, so what are the indicators of self-regulation? So they are the abilities to, as what I have said earlier, they set standards for themselves. They monitor and evaluate one's own behavior against such standards and impose consequence on oneself for one's success or failure. So that is self-regulation theory. So I think that would be all for my part for this report. And the next reporter will report also their part. So that would be all. Thank you for listening.
Good day everyone, this is Billion Binitan and today I'll be discussing my topic about choice theory. So according to Bob Solow, 2007, it is a biological theory that suggests that we are born with specific needs that we are genetically instructed to satisfy. All of our behavior represents our best attempt at any moment to satisfy our basic needs or genetic instructions. In addition to the physical needs for survival, we have 4 basic psychological needs that must be satisfied to be emotionally healthy. First, the belonging or connecting. Second, power or competence. Third, freedom. And lastly, fun. The need for belonging or connecting motivates us to develop relationship and cooperate with others. Without the need for belonging and cooperating, we would only strive to be independent. The need for power is more than just a drive to dominate. Power is gained through competence, achievement, and mastery. Our genetic instruction is to achieve, master new skills, and to recognize for our accomplishment. As humans, we are also motivated to be free, to choose. Having choices is part of what it means to be human and is one reason our species has been able to evolve, adapt, and thrive. Each time we learn something new, we are having fun, another universal human motivator. It is our playfulness and our sense of discovery that allow us to learn as much as we do. So the question is, what do these imply to our task to facilitate learning? We have to come up with a need-satisfying environment. To motivate our students for learning, we should satisfy their need to belong, their need to have power by being competent, the need to have a free choice, and the need to enjoy the learning and have fun. Another question, how can this be done? If we create a sense of community in the classroom and make every student feel she or he belongs to that classroom community, she or he will more likely to love go to school. If we make use of cooperative learning structures, we strengthen the spirit of cooperation and collaboration and reduce, if not eliminate, the spirit of cutthroat competition. So, in a non-threatening atmosphere, students are more likely to perform, and it is to satisfy our students' need for power, Let us help them acquire it by making them achieve, by making them master their lessons and end up very competent. Let us teach our students the source of authentic power is competence, not bullying and other irresponsible behaviors. This way, they will learn the true road to real power. Next, to motivate our students for learning, let us give them ample freedom to choose within parameters that are safe and responsible, developmentally appropriate, and supportive of learning, for that is the ultimate purpose of freedom, to help our students learn and grow into the responsible persons they are called to be. When our students are made to feel that they have a lot of free choices, they are driven to satisfy this need for freedom. On the other hand, when our students perceive themselves to be so suffocated by our impositions and limits, they are most likely to behave in ways, even irresponsible ways, to get them the freedom they believe is not satisfied. Fun is a universal human motivator. If our students' need for fun is satisfied, they are most likely to learn much. According to Glaser, 1990 claims, fun is the genetic payoff of learning. A joyless classroom does not motivate students to perform. Without our knowing, our students are learning and mastering what we are teaching, while we are having fun. So what happens outside of us has a lot to do with what we choose to do. But the outside of us has a lot to do with what we choose to do. But the outside even does not cause our behavior. What we get and all we ever get from the outside is information. How we can choose to act on that information is up to us. That was according to William Glaser, 1990, quoted by Bob Solu, page 6. Okay, now let us proceed in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Harold Maslow, born in April 1, 1908, and died on June 8, 1970, was a psychologist who studied positive human qualities and the lives of exemplary people. In 1954, Maslow created the hierarchy of human needs and expressed his theories in his book Motivation and Personality. A student's lower order need must first be met before she or he work for the satisfaction of his or her higher order needs. The lower order needs include the first level needs and the second level needs. The first level needs are basic survival and psychological needs for food, air, water, sleep, homeostasis, and excretion. The second level needs are bodily safety and economic security. It is the security of body, of employment, of resources, of morality, of the family, of health, and of the property. There are three levels in the higher order needs. The first is the need for love and belonging. It includes our friendship, family, and sexual intimacy. The needs at the fourth level includes those for esteem and status, including one's feeling of self-worth and of the competence. It is the self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, and respect by others. And the fifth level is self-actualization. It includes the morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem-solving, lack of prejudice, acceptance of facts. It means becoming all that one is capable of becoming, using one's skills to the fullest and stretching talents to the maximum. Self-actualization is a person's motivation to reach his or her potential. As shown in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a person's basic needs must be met before self-actualization can be achieved. Based on Maslow's theory, a satisfied need is not a stronger motivator, but an unsatisfied need is. Research proves that unless the two lower order needs, the psychological and security, are basically satisfied, employees in our teaching learning context or our students will not be greatly concerned with higher order needs. That was according to Newstrom 1997. For us teachers, this means that we cannot teach students with hungry stomachs. Why? Because we cannot teach students when they feel afraid and insecure. Well, it is not our obligation to feed them. Working with parents, the school nurse, and all others who can help can address the problem of students' hunger, lack of sleep, and the like. Our students' need for love and belonging is satisfied in a class where they feel they belong and are accepted regardless of their academic standing in class, economic status, or ethnic background. Their need for self-esteem is satisfied when we help them succeed, recognize their effort and contribution no matter how insignificant, and praise their achievement. Doing so actually propels them to self-actualization. Let us proceed in the goal theory. So, learning goals versus performance goals. The goals we set for ourselves affect our level of motivation. There are several types of goals. In relation to learning, we can speak of learning goals and performance goals. So how do they differ? Learning goal is a desire to acquire additional knowledge or master new skills, while performance goal is a desire to look good and receive favorable judgment from others, or else look bad and receive unfavorable judgment. Between these two goals, with which type of goal is the intrinsically motivated student occupied? Obviously, the ideal student is the student with a learning goal. The student with a learning goal is mastery focused, while the student with a performance goal is performance focused. So, the table 3 shows a comparison of learning, mastery focused, and performance focused classrooms. So, in the mastery focused, the success defined as mastery and improvement, while the performance focused high grades and doing better than others. And value placed on in the mastery focused effort and improvement, while performance high grades and demonstration by high ability. In reasons for satisfaction in mastery, meeting challenges and hard work; in performance, doing better than others and success with minimum effort. Teacher-oriented toward in mastery, students' learning, while in performance, students' performance. And in view of errors, mastery focus a normal part of learning, while in performance focus a basis for concern and anxiety. And reasons for effort in the mastery, increase and understanding; on the performance, high grades and doing better than others. Ability viewed as, in mastery, incremental and alterable, while in the performance, an entity and fixed. In reasons for assessment, mastery focused measure progress toward preset criteria and provide feedback, while in the performance focused determine grades and compare students to one another. So, self-determined goal, personally relevant, and self-determined goals enhance a student's motivation. When lesson objectives are relevant to the life of students, then they turn out to be more motivated to learn. When the lesson objectives are owned by the students because they find them relevant to their life, most likely they become highly motivated for learning. This departs from decontextualized teaching that happens when all we do is deposit information into the minds of our students. Students memorize and we withdraw what we taught every periodic examination. Now, So, goal setting as a motivational tool, goal setting is effective when the following major elements are present. So, the major elements are goal acceptance, specificity, challenge, performance monitoring, and lastly, performance feedback. Thus, it is necessary that our students accept our own lesson objectives and that our lessons objectives must be SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bound. So it is equally important that we monitor our students' learning. However, simply monitoring results is not enough. We have to give our students feedback about their performance. And that would be all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I am the last reporter of our group. So I will going to report the Module 21 entitled Students Diversity in Motivation. So first, my name is before I start the discussion, let me introduce myself first. So my name is Jan Patrocinio. So since we have already discussed what are the types of motivation and what is a motivation, so now we're going to proceed the that what brings students diversity in motivation. So here are the learning objectives in this module. So at the end of the lesson, challenge yourself to attain the following. So first, reflect on your own experiences as you read through situations given in this module. Second is present social and cultural influences on the cognitive and motivational processes of learning by means of a graphic organizer. The third is state and explain two principles in social and cultural influences on motivation. Okay, let's start. So here are the research findings that you may reflect upon your own experiences. So A, young children often want to gain teachers' approval to motivate, while the older ones are typically more interested in gaining approval by the peers of peers, according to Giovannin and Wiener 1993, quoted by Omrod in 2004. So, second, increasingly students value activities that will have usefulness for them in their personal and professional lives, and subjects that are not directly applicable will decrease in popularity. For letter B, elementary students tend to attribute their successes to effort and hard work. By adolescents, however, students attribute success and failure more to inability that is fairly stable and uncontrollable. Effort becomes signs of low ability. According to Nicholas 1990, Paris and Cunningham in 1996, quoted by Omrod 2004. For letter C, students of Asian background are more likely to attribute academic achievement to unstable factors like effort, attribute appropriate or inappropriate behaviors to temporarily situational factors than students brought up in mainstream Western culture. For letter D, females are more concerned about doing well in school. They work hard on assignments, earn higher grades, and more likely to graduate from high school. That is according to the study. So letter E, students from low-income families are among those most likely to be at risk of failing and dropping out of school. A pattern of failure may start quite quite early for many lower income students, especially if they have not had early experiences upon which learning often build. And for letter F, students with specific or general academic difficulties like those which with learning disabilities, those mental retardation may show signs of learned helplessness with regard to classroom tasks, especially when their past efforts have been repeatedly met with failure, according to Dessler and Schumacher, 1988, and Jacobson, Lowery, and Docket, 1986, and Selegma, 1975. So these are the factors that influences students in motivation. So first is age. So as we have read earlier that young children often want to gain teachers' approval to be motivated, while the older ones are typically more interested in gaining the approval of peer. So, so age is one of the factors that brings students that brings diversity among the students in motivation. So, second is the gender. So, as according to the research, that females are more likely than males to have a high need for affiliation. So, and also females are more concerned about doing well in school. They have work harder on assignments and earn higher grades and more likely to graduate from high school. So, to do well in school and to bring them in learning. So now what should we do to help motivate our learners to learn, or our students to learn? So can you ask yourself what you should do in order to help your students to be motivated to learn in your lesson? But, but for me, as a teacher, we must expose our students to models of their age and models of come from similar and cultural and socio-economic backgrounds. So, if we go back to the second principle that it says here that students develop greater efficacy for a task when they see others like themselves in performing the task successfully. So it is very necessary that we should give our students motivation, or they must see others they must see others that doing well in order for them to be motivated as well. So according to Bandura, social learning is very important. So we must expose our students to see or to reflect upon successful persons that they can reflect upon. So that ends my report. Thank you for listening. I hope you understand understand all the reportings from module 19 to 21. So thank you and God bless.